Hey guys, I'm just trying to fit in, and you're watching a battle against Charzy12 or Crappyname12345, depending on which site you go by. I lead with my Polytoad, and he has Drizzle, and I go for the Hypnosis, but I forget that Arifune has that ability, and it uses Substitute. I predict his Encore, and I switch out into my Nitore. I'm hoping to get some spikes up, but he gets a taunt off, which stinks for me. So I decide to stay in and use Iron Head, I believe. His Encore failed because my spikes failed, so that was kind of bad for him. And surprisingly, the Iron Head gets rid of his sub, so I guess Arifune has terrible defense. Anyway, he goes into his Heatran to combat my Nitore, and I switch out into my Ludicolo, and he switches back into his Arifune. So, not too bad for me. And his Arifune gets hit by a Life Orb, Rain Dance, Stab, Surf. So that's not too good for him. And I'm thinking I can kill him with another Surf, whether he Encores or not, but he uses Substitute. So that's good for me. And this time he Encores, so I'm locked into Surf, which is my most powerful move. And the Surf will take out his Arifune. For any of you who saw our last battle, he won, but I want to say just barely. So this is our rematch. This time I told him I'd use my good team, and he said he'd use his good team. So here we are. Anyway, he switches into his Burungeru, which has Water Absorb, which is not good for my Surf, which I'm Encored into. So I switch out into my Zapdos as he uses Shadow Ball. And then I try to use Thunder, and when I do that, he switches into his Flygon, making my Thunder useless. Luckily for me, I carry the Hidden Power Ice. So, that Flygon, I don't know how much of a threat it would have been, but it's pretty good to get rid of. He goes back into his Burungeru, which he, I guess, should have stayed with, and I Thunder it, and it does a lot of damage, and I'm really happy with the amount of damage it did. And what stinks is he gets the freeze on his Ice Beam. So, freaking freeze. And so that makes me unable to use Thunder, and he is Ice Beaming me. And I don't want to switch here because I have a feeling that kind of like how the sleep counter gets reset on the Switch, I have a feeling that the freeze counter will too. So I don't like that. His Lucario gets a Swords Dance off, and I finally thaw out and use Roost. And his Lucario is going to go for an Extreme Speed next, but this is a physically defensive Zapdos, so I use Thunder, and it does pretty nice. It doesn't KO the Ludicolo though. So, Thunder, yeah, and I get a Paralyze, but it doesn't matter because he's just going to use Extreme Speed again. Yeah, Charzy12 and I are pretty great friends, so you're gonna see more battles against him. Let me know if you like the sped up music in the background. I've decided to leave the music in at a lower volume. He goes out into his Heatran, and fearing the Fire Blast, I go into my Kabutops, which is a 4x resist to Fire Blast, and it's raining, so that's pretty nice. I go for the Choice Banded Waterfall in the rain, and Kabutops has a nice attack stat, but it kind of fails against an Nitore, which he switches out into, and I also get Steel Thorns damage. So I go into my own Nitore right now, because it's pretty much, Nitore can take anything that another Nitore has, and I felt like I could set up while he does whatever. So I try to get my first layer of spikes out right here, but I kind of fail because the one time paralysis matters, and it doesn't even matter because my speed is low to begin with. It still fully paralyzes me. His Heatran uses Substitute as I switch into my Zapdos. I guess he was predicting my switch, and then he KOs me with Fire Blast before I'm able to do anything. Anyway, I use Surf on the Heatran to break its sub, and I know I can take one Fire Blast. This is my Ludicolo is pretty much the second most specially defensive Pokemon on my team, so I don't really have much for that. Maybe I should get a Burungeru, I don't know. And I end up using Surf on the Notori, which does a bit better than Waterfall did, and I'm not getting Steel Thorns damage. Anyway, I use Surf again, and I died a Life Orb, and he sets up his layer of Stealth Rocks, which isn't necessarily too bad. My Rain Dance isn't weak to Stealth Rock, really. Excuse me. So I'm kind of predicting his switch into Burungeru right here with when he uses Notori, so I go for the X Scissor, and then I use X Scissor on his Burungeru, and it fails because I forgot that X Scissor is weak to Ghost, and he uses Boiling Water and fails, and I fail and die. I send out my Tentacruel thinking that now that pretty much more than half the battle, well, much more than 3/4 of the battle is over, now would be a perfect time to set up my Toxic Spikes. And I get both my layers of Toxic Spikes, and he like does his best to attack me, but Tentacruel's Rain Dish and Leftovers, I'm going to switch Black Sludge. I'm going to put Black Sludge on that one. Yeah, but Rain Dish and Leftovers aren't letting him doing anything. So I try to poison him with a Sludge Bomb, forcing him to switch into his other remaining Pokemon. And he doesn't look like he wants to switch, but then he does switch, and my Sludge Bomb doesn't work against the Heatran. His Heatran is actually faster than me. This is a bulky Tentacruel, because Rain Dish. And, normally I would be faster, though. And, since it's bulky, it could take a hit of Earth Power, and just take out the Heatran with, Hydro Pump. Maybe I should put Surf on it. I don't really like using Hydro Pump. And he goes out into his Burungeru, which Notori is almost my only counter for. And, right here he goes for the Shadow Ball, which would have hit my Tentacruel instead. And I go for the Leech Seed, but he just decides to run, because he knows he's going to lose.